Good evening and welcome to the studio this evening. Well, it's a little bit of a late start. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to turn the volume off on my window here. If I can work out how to do it. Because it shouldn't be on and I'm getting my own feedback, which could be confusing. But it is a bit of a late start, as I mentioned there, so I'm also a little bit tired, so I'm going to do something that doesn't require me to concentrate a great deal, which is this magic dot. So we will work out how to get into this packaging will help. I think I just pull that up. So magic dots, if you're not aware of them, you might also see them labelled as diamond dots, which is magic dots is probably the shall we say the cheap knockoff version. Now then, just bear with me a second. I'll disappear off camera because I already have. The necessary tools. So so I don't need to open another pack of them. So we're going to do this picture, which is a lot of dots. So yes, what these are. This is a copy of Magic Dots. Or at least I gather that's what it is. It certainly looks like it. So we're going to do number 5, which is number 5. And there's lots of them, as you can see. The whole area here, which is number 5. So we're going to go ahead with that. So what these are they're like a faceted, like a diamond. That's where the original name came through. But it's a little domes of plastic. The top's faceted, which makes them sparkle, which I'll show you in a moment. I'm going to get some out. These packs are quite full, as I can imagine, for this. Don't know if it's going to show up too well at this moment in time, but they do sparkle. And what this is a material underneath this material. The picture is printed on here. It's a bit like painting by numbers in a way. There's a plastic sheet over the top to protect it because it gets it's sticky, so it will get dust and sort of other things on it, so which you don't want. I'm going to switch glasses so that I can actually see what I'm doing, and it doesn't take a lot of concentration to do this. So one of the good things about that is I get to be able to look at chat occasionally. So I just pick up a dot with this pen and put it on the square labelled number 5, and then we just keep going. And in this particular case we're going to fill the whole picture, so there's going to be thousands of these things. One of the things I did when I got these kits was that I looked at them and I thought a lot of the kits are partial pictures. It's printed like this is, but then it's printed in high resolution, and there'll be a small part of it in the middle that's got the dots bit on it. And I sort of looked at those and thought, well, that's not very much to do, you know, I'll be through those really quickly. And so one of the things I looked for is a picture that was fully covered completely in dots. Figuring that, yeah, that might take a little bit of time to do. Having now done a couple of them, of the other style where there is a it's a picture and there's some dots in the middle, so to speak, which took sort of several hours to do. I was probably mistaken. This thing is probably going to take me weeks. But it is a nice, they're a nice relaxing thing to be able to do. Music's playing in the background, of course, from Petzl Rocks there. Check it out if you're interested in any of the tunes that you hear. There's the bot keeps dropping a link into the channel. You can't actually see what I'm doing because I've got the I was going to say the L. It's not an L in this particular case. But it is the advertising on the right hand side. The screen was covering over what I was doing, so you couldn't see it. So I'm just moving some rings to one side. I've still got some chainmail to do. I've been working on this one on stream, which is a tiny bracelet, a tiny diameter bracelet, relatively speaking, that is, given that these are something like 3.2mm rings, and this is about 5 inches long, and it needs to be at least 7.5, so it's about another at least 7 inches, so there's another 2 hours of work to get that to a length which becomes a bracelet. But not tonight. That takes a bit of concentration, which I don't want to be involved with just at the moment. So I'm just peeling back a little bit of this plastic, not a lot, because I don't want it to get covered in any sort of dust. And this is kind of a cross between slightly sticky and static electricity pen, which picks up the dot. I'm looking for the ones which are the dome side up, and then the tool picks them up quite well. It didn't do it that time, but and then this is a lot more sticky than either the static or the very slight stickiness of this tool, because it's got some wax in the end, and therefore once I put them down on here, they stick and they come away from the tool quite nicely. So it's a good way of sort of just transporting them across. And all I'm doing is, wherever I see a number 5, which is all the black areas that you can see in this image, and the camera actually makes it look quite nice. Before I've done anything, of course, but just looking at the image that you're seeing, you can actually see the picture a lot better than I can. That's just one of these things that the camera does, is it makes things look like you're a few feet away from the picture, so you get more of an overview than I do. I can see all the little squares and the characters on there, the numbers. You just see the colours, so you're actually seeing what the picture will look like when it's complete. It just looks quite nice. I am really kind of pleased I got this. They're not expensive kits if anybody's interested in them. The diamond dots things are. They're not cheap at all, to say the least. But these, could you call them counterfeits? I don't know. So alternative suppliers of these are quite cheap. I think I got about 5 or 6 of them and spent about 10 UK pounds. So they're from that point of view, good value. I would say certainly you spend a lot of time doing them. And if you go looking for these kits with the intent of perhaps doing one, do take care. When you see a lot of the pictures where they show you the high resolution image, not of the the image from which this thing has been constructed, so you see what looks like a photograph, probably because it was, and they don't always show you what it looks like in diamond dot form or magic dot form, and yes, there are reports, if you like, of people being disappointed because it's more pixelated. That's effectively what I'm doing here, is putting on pixels. So this is a form of pixel art, perhaps, and people being disappointed because what they see isn't the high resolution image that they thought they were getting. So when you if you go looking for these, look for the pictures that show the actual dots when they're attached to the image, and you'll get a better idea what it will actually look when you've completed it. So you hopefully, well, I'm going to say I could probably scroll in a bit more, but I'm sure it would get more of a boring picture if I do that just with a real close up on what I'm doing. But could do with a bit more lighting, I think. Might have to think about more lighting in here for streaming. Fortunately, good lights aren't cheap, so we'll have to wait until I can save up to afford them. I do have quite a bit of lighting straight above. We've got some nice LED lights in here, and they're a nice cool white as well, which which is good for things like this. But I could I'm working in shadow, if you like, a little bit because they're above my head. And I don't really want to adjust them because they also provide general room lighting for when I'm not streaming. If I start adjusting them a lot, then I will end up not being able to see things when I'm not streaming. Yeah, I'm just trying to put a bit more of this wax stuff on. Or in the end. There we go. Things weren't sticking very well. Eddie Fall Guy, good evening. Welcome to the studio this evening. How are you? How are all your drawings going? I decided that it was a late stream tonight because I've been busy all day. And feeling relatively tired, that I wasn't going to even attempt to do any of the 3D printer. I just didn't want to have to concentrate on getting all the measurements right. So I'm doing something which is less mentally taxing. What's going on here? You stick there, you stop moving about and go there. Oh, you've been out at camp. I see. I say you've been out at camp. I assume that you mean it's the scout camp. But you may well have been camping for yourself, I guess. Anywhere particularly nice? Are you doing some now whilst you're watching streams? Well, I have sort of finally got round to sort of sorting out the YouTube channel, and I've now started uploading videos to it, but or preparing and uploading videos. But I've got almost a year's worth of videos to upload. Okay. Hemsby sounds familiar, but I half think I'm thinking of Helmsley, which is also familiar. But it's a long time since I went camping. It will be over 30 years since I last went camping. And although having said which, I guess I cheated because I can't actually remember whether the last time was in a caravan or a motorhome. I'm not quite sure which. Okay. I say that, of course, my geography is so terrible that I've heard of Great Yarmouth, but I have no idea where it is. Oh dear. It's yeah. It's possibly even a place I've been to, but if it is, it's not one that's actually stuck in my memory as to where it's located. I'm just thinking, did you get because there was a storm? I think there was a storm last week. Lots of heavy rain, wasn't there? Did you get caught in that? not much fun when Norfolk. Oh, okay, yeah, it does. That helps a bit. Not usually, but Norfolk, I happen to know where that one is. That's the only thing about camping is intense anyway. Is the rain is not particularly enjoyable. In the hard stuff like the like a trailer tent, or well, not that that's that particularly hard, but you know, caravans, trailer tents, motorhomes. It's not so bad when it rains. In fact, I think yeah, it must have been in motorhome. I think I was last, because I seem to remember the last time I even had an electric hookup on it. So that makes it a bit more fun. Being a radio amateur was at the time, I'd have taken a radio with me, and the electric hookup is really nice when you do that, because it saves on the batteries. You walking in Cromer. Now Cromer is a place I've been to. I understand anyway, as a child. We apparently used to go to Cromer quite a bit. I don't remember, but yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, yeah, it can be quite pleasant as well. Is when the rain's on the tent, it can sort of be quite nice and lulls you to sleep. The bit I don't, the two bits I don't like, really, in a way, when you're in a tent, is if it's raining such a lot that you actually bring the water in outside of the inner tent, and the inside of the tent just turns to mud. But it's not so bad if you've got an integral ground sheet, I guess. But a lot of the bigger tents, of course, don't tend to do that. That's the bit I hate. But yeah, the putting a tent up in the rain or taking it down in the rain are about two of the worst things to do. Used to absolutely hate that, because of course, as you know, if it comes home wet, one of the first things you end up having to do is to put it up again to dry it out. One of my I had two favourite camping places. One of them was Chertsey on the River Thames near London, and the reason for that was there used to be a weir just across from the camping site, and the sort of the favourite pitch there was relatively near to the river, and you got the you could hear the weir all the time, and on a night that white noise of the weir was absolutely fantastic. Yours is a stitched in ground sheet. Oh well, that does certainly help you, especially if you take your shoes off when you come in. And it's larger than most campsites. Okay, I never actually. I mean, it's a long time. So when I was camping, there didn't seem to be any restrictions on sort of fairly large 4-6 berth tents, but what would they be, about 15-18 feet square type of thing? Also put peanut black in. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you got to do a lot of work, haven't you, to keep it dry. Yeah, the other place that was favourite place for camping was up in Scotland, on the west coast, a place called Loch Long, which is just above, I think, just above Loch Lomond. Loch Long there was a sea loch, and so I used to do some sea fishing there. At one point with a boat, small boat, but I used to do it from the shore as well. Rain actually used to be quite good then. Mackerel, we used to catch a lot of mackerel in the rain. For some reason that brought them up to the surface and close to the shore, and so catch a few was nice. Although it was best if it wasn't raining, because you could catch a few, go back to the campsite and immediately barbecue the things, and they were absolutely fantastic if you did that. But yeah, Loch Long, interesting place. The MOD used to test torpedoes, so if the siren went off you had to be off the water, and then at times you obviously wouldn't ever see the torpedo, but you see the wake running down. They only tested the motor bit, they never tested live, but that was a fun thing to see occasionally. And we actually saw a whale there once, and a couple of basking sharks, which was quite an interesting exercise. They are big. I was unsure at the time for both of them, but they were, they looked big even from shore. Oh, sites only allow 6 meters. Okay, 18 feet. I wasn't. Obviously, that's something I would say relatively recent. Oh, sometime within the last 30 years. Yours is 7.1. Yours isn't one like they have on Harry Potter, is it? They put it in and it's a complete apartment with bathroom and mains gas and central heating. Lady Zara keeps occasionally saying she'd like to go camping, but she thinks she might like it, but to be honest, I don't actually think she would, given that she likes sort of 5-star hotels and doesn't necessarily like the rain and things like that. So I can't actually see her going to the toilet block at sort of in the rain at 8 o'clock at night. You took the electric radiator. Nearly. Well, having the electric hookup helps a lot, doesn't it? Especially when you can then use some of the mains appliances. Or probably I'm guessing sort of the computers more than likely, was it? I was about to say when I go on holiday, I haven't particularly have an interest in computers when I go on holiday. I mean, I've got the interest in C1. I'd be interested in whatever it is, but I don't miss taking a computer with me. Although, having said which, I do take a Kindle, which of course is a computer, but I'm reading a book, and I do actually take the computer that's in front of me, which is a drawing tablet. So if I have this sort of challenge, dilemma when I'm away, is I either draw or I read a book. And usually reading the book wins. But I didn't think it was actually that cold. I mean, I suppose you used the radiator for drying things, did you? it is. I was just thinking that, and camping, I guess. Certainly, in the when I was doing camping, the equipment that you could take with you at the time was, such a significant advancement on what, when I was going to say when my parents were my age. I mean, I was probably less than 20 at that age, and when they were less than 20, the sort of stuff that we were getting when I was around just wasn't known to them. It literally at the back then it was paraffin, fresh, hand pumped paraffin stoves, and that was about it. And you had you'd won, and you didn't get this sort of multi-burner large gas with oven and grill and everything else. Drying stuff. Kettle helps. Cool. And yes, charging phones. The key thing, charging phones. And the kettle. Yeah, electric kettle's nice, I guess. Sticking that on a gas stove wasn't too bad. When I was a lad, which usually the only electric power we started with, of course, was the car battery. Everything was 12 volts. Lights, because electric lights, a lot. Although we did actually, starting with, of course, it was bottled gas lights. Latterly, electric lights when we were camping, just because they were easier. But portable 12-volt portable TVs were relatively new then, and if you took one of those, you always had to be really careful of the car battery. And I think the high technology was a gas-powered fridge, which even now sort of, I don't know, boggles my mind a little bit. You've got a fridge with a gas flame, and you got a fridge with a gas flame. The gas flame is keeping the fridge cold. Oh yeah, to be honest, I mean, I did have the gear, some of the gear, small, not quite a pup tent, but that sort of thing. 2-3-man tent, a single burner gas, and a little torch, and that was about it. I have done that in the past, but mainly actually with cycling, because of course you really didn't have a lot of space on the bike. But no, once I progressed to being able to drive a car and tow a trailer, then all the nice things used to go. So we still until we had the electric. Even with the electric hookup, actually, we didn't go for electric kettles. So it's still mainly gas. The electric was really just the lighting and maybe a television. And of course it powered the fridge when you were driving, as opposed to when you were static. When you switched it over to gas, you take an 8-man tent. 8-man tent with 4 people in it. Yeah. Strangest thing I've taken camping, for which I definitely needed the electric hookup, was in the Dolby Forest, and it was an overnight camp because I was working in the forest at the time. We're working on the what's the valley that goes through Dolby Forest? I can't remember now. That was a long time ago. Was providing radio communications. So the strangest, effectively I was camping out in actually a motorhome in the forest, and the strangest thing I got there was actually an old mechanical teleprinter, what used to be called a Creed 7E. So it's a big thing, noisy. So I took a teleprinter camping and used it. It was used for transferring text messages around, and yeah, you needed 240 volts to drive that thing. So actually I was hooked up to one of the neighbours' big generators. I was in one of the staging areas, so there was a lot of the pit crews, so they got some big generators, so I was nicking their power. 5 people. Oh, okay. What always used to amuse me, the way in which they I don't know if it's changed, but you'd see a 3-man tent and you think, okay, I didn't know tents had bunk beds, because how the heck you get 3 people in that tent is anybody's guess. There wouldn't have been you'd have been touching the sides, and I was trying to think, how do they measure these things? It's a 3-man tent. I'm not big by any means. Well, I suppose I'm relatively tall, but I'm not big, wide across, and I've getting 3 people in a 3-man tent is definitely a challenge. There's certainly not any room for anything else when you do that. It's funny though, isn't it, how you go camping, it pours with rain, it's muddy, it's horrible, you're wet through. Bacon sandwiches always taste absolutely amazing, but when you come back you kind of forget all that stuff, and you're kind of thinking, that was a nice holiday, I enjoyed that. It's the same these days. Okay, there's still yeah. Which, and sorry, the thought just crossed my mind. That measurement is an interesting one, because when you go to the sort of family tents type of things, like I guess yours, the sort of quote that as like a 4-person tent, because it's got 2 rooms, and you could get about 4 people in each of the bedroom areas. This is obviously, I guess what it is well, I don't know the answer to this, but kids take up 5 times their body room in space, and that must be why the family tents are always larger than you'd expect for the numbers. I always used to get fascinated by the tents that you could zip the tent, 2 or more tents together, and so you could get joining pieces. So the front awning had sides, and you could put them in sort of configurations and have corridors between them, and get effectively a bigger tent just by linking them together, and that was always fun. And the campsite owner coming around making sure as you were pitching it that you weren't too close to the tent next door, which of course makes sense. I understand, the fire risk is something you have to be careful of, which is why you've got this. For anybody that's listening who doesn't realise, it's why you have a significant distance between tents, so that if one does catch fire, it doesn't jump and burn everybody else's tent. Although they are, of course, made of flame resistant materials. Stick people in no bed, yeah. Okay, yeah. airbeds. Oh, lap of luxury there. Used to have I'm sure you know them, but the cots, you know, whatever it was, you know, the material, 2 rods and then three wire W's that you used to have to stretch into the frame and get them in and create like a little cot type of thing. That's not a child's cot, by the way, anybody's listening, different type of cot. But yeah, small beds, just get off the floor. And sleeping bags. What did I think of a minute ago? My brain's gone. I was just thinking about something to do with camping then, and I can't. Okay, yeah. Large combat, yeah. I can remember putting these things together because you had a, you know, you had a, well, you know what they're like, but for anybody else, you'd have sort of steel aluminium tubes down the sides, and you'd have to put them together and then slide them into the sides of the material. And at sort of 3 points down there was sort of cutouts where you could see the metal tube that you slotted in, and there'd be a little sort of ferrule with a hole in it, and you were trying you'd get a piece of metal into it, which formed sort of the legs, but they were made out of sprung steel, and you were having to, you know, because the idea was that them stretching outwards was it held the material taut, so when you laid on it you didn't suddenly just collapse onto the floor. But it was, you know, as a young adult, shall I say, sort of one or two hands you were really having to yank and pull on this thing really hard to get it into that, to pull it back to get into that hole. And it was sort of, it was almost dangerous, because if you cut your finger or anything, it was extremely painful. And you know, if you sort of didn't actually pull straight, then this thing would pull to one side and your hand would whip over, and it was fun. Trying to think, we did have air beds at one point, but we stopped using them. Don't actually know why. I mean, they were a pain in the neck to blow up. You know, even with this of the, you know, the electric things, but I can't actually recall why we didn't use them very often. We actually used the camping beds. Possibly, I guess, because well, no, I was gonna say, you know, if you got any water in, then, you know, some of the air beds had material around the outside, and they used to you'd get water wicking up, and then your bed was wet. But it wouldn't have been that. There'd have been plastic at that time. I don't know. You were a few at the camp. Yeah. I know when I was at school and we went, each year there was a school camp, and I went to a few of those, and those were old army tents. You know, I'll say the round ones, but they were, you know, so many sides, and the height of luxury there was to get one of the new tents, which actually was a tent-shaped tent as opposed to a wigwam-shaped tent, because they were actually warmer, because the sides were didn't have a certain ground sheet, but the sides were better for some reason. I can't recall why, but they were always warmer. So that was luxury. But we back then it was sleeping on the floor. You just slept on the ground sheet. Which I don't know if it was because you were kids at the time, or the atmosphere or whatever, but was surprisingly comfortable. It actually makes me wonder now, thinking back on it, with all the teachers there, and there must have been catering staff as well that was doing the cooking, because there was about 3 or 4 coachloads of kids each week, and that in itself was industrial cooking. And everybody there had to do something. So you ended up doing things like either digging the toilets, or indeed cleaning them, emptying them, or emptying, cleaning, and refilling the water containers, or the washing up. I don't think anybody was peeling potatoes, but. Usually that actually used to be down in Conway, in Wales. Place I don't actually remember much of these days, other than the fact that I remember being there and it's got a bridge. And I know it's got a castle, but I don't. And I'll have been in the castle, but I don't actually remember the castle at all. Yeah, these days, if I had to go on holiday without a book, that would. That would actually sort of, be upsetting, but you know what I mean. That'd be the thing that I'd find hard to do these days. Go without a computer. Don't use a phone very often anyway, so I can go without a phone. But going without a book, well, I say a book. There's several books. That's one of the nice things about the Kindle when it came out. I actually had a book reader before the Kindle came out, which was absolutely fantastic, but the battery in it only lasted a day, and it was another paper type screen as well. But used to once the Kindle came out, that was absolutely fantastic, because I bought one not on day one but fairly close after it, and I've got one that still have one that has the inbuilt telephony link, so you can sit on the beach and buy books. And before that, when I go on holiday for a fortnight, I would generally take 14 books with me. That's large, sort of fairly standard novel paperbacks. I'd read them all twice. I'd probably buy out another 4 or 5 in the airport on the way out. So I'd probably end up with about 20 books. I'd read them all at least twice, and generally then sort of be looking to buy another 1 or 2 in the resort, which is the place we used to go, there's never a lot of books there anyway. So when the Kindle came out and I could actually buy books, that in itself was an absolutely wonderful thing for the holiday. Nice, made it more relaxing, shall we say, for me, because I didn't get bored having read the books twice, reading them a third time. Don't mind reading a book twice, because when you read it the second time, you always get something different out of it. But the third and fourth time, that does get a bit boring because you start to remember too much of the story. But it not only did it revolutionise the holiday, it also meant I took a lot less in my suitcase as well, because of 14 books. Weighs quite a bit. It's surprising. So but yeah, I spend a lot of my holidays sat in the shade under an umbrella usually. We do explore the area, but the place we go to these days, we've been to a number of times, so we actually do know the area quite well. So sat under an umbrella, reading books, and even there I go dark brown. Lady Zara sits out in the sun with sun cream on and doesn't change colour. It really annoys her. I tell her she ought to try sitting under an umbrella in the sun, but out the sun. But not only is it good for your skin, you might go brown. Yeah, just thinking, it's as I mentioned earlier, it's a bit of a dilemma though, because I'd love to be able, where we do go, there's some fantastic views and things like that, and I kind of love to paint them, and I'd mean electronic painting in this particular case, because I'd no way I was going to take a painting kit out there, but electronic painting, I'd love to be able to paint them, but it's always a case of I'll just read another chapter, and I'll just read another chapter, and oh, it's lunchtime. Well, I'll just read a chapter before I start, and oh, it's getting dark, we better go in. I guess what I ought to, and I still haven't done it, but I guess what I ought to do is take photographs of the views and paint them when I come back, but it's another one of those things where I ought to find more time, even when I'm back here, to do things like practice painting and things like that. But hopefully, actually, now talking about time, as the things like the decorating and stuff that I've been doing for the past couple of months or so, hopefully now is coming towards an end, which means I will have more time to do some streaming, so I may well be able to start to do at some point in the next couple of months, shall we say, start to be able to do some streams during the week. And actually get some of the projects completed. I was tonight just doing this. I was kind of, before I started the stream, I was kind of contemplating whether what I should actually do is complete some of the chainmail. I've got a micro mail bracelet that I ought to finish, but that's going to take a couple of hours, or whether I ought to do some carving because I've got Amber the Owl to finish, or whether I ought to do some pyrography because of course I've got Theo to finish, and I'm sure I've got another piece around somewhere to finish, so but I decided I'd do this instead. it gives me the opportunity to talk more without having to concentrate on what I'm doing. It's a relatively easy task to concentrate on whilst you're talking about things. You know, that's what I thought. Yeah. This Stream Deck is nice, but there is one thing, and I don't know if it's Twitch or Stream Deck or just the fact that I'm a little channel with not a lot, generally speaking, not a lot of viewers. But the Stream Deck is supposed to have this little button. It's got a button on it, which it's an active button in there. What it's supposed to do is come up with how many viewers there are on the channel. Generally speaking, it says 0. But having just checked, for example, I know that it should say at least 3, if not 5. But it seems to be working very well these days. But that's about the only thing of the Stream Deck that I don't actually like. Other than that, it's an amazing little piece of kit for doing streaming. Especially in my case here, where the actual stream computer is 6 feet to my left and not particularly easy to get to if I want to do something like change the scenes. So it's definitely something I'd recommend to anybody who does, I was about to say does stream, to check it out. And at least it's not cheap, I will admit, but for me it was definitely worth it. But I would say definitely worth at least taking a look at. And that new, talking about Elgato there with the Stream Deck, of course they have just launched the green screen, the pop-up green screen, which is an interesting thing. Sort of thing that would potentially ideal for me, but I'm stood up, so I'd have to stand it behind me on something else. So, honestly, a great idea. But it just struck me. That's kind of a reuse of an old idea. Because essentially all it is, it's a projector screen that's green. Those sorts of things, that technology, which they sort of are going as new technology, is has been used for pop-up projector screens for years. Only this is green material instead of reflective. But now that is relatively pricey, and I'm not particularly convinced as to whether it's worth it. I suppose it is, because it's a pop-up, it goes back in its box, you can put it out of the way. It's a bit easier than trying to set up a material screen and a frame for it and then make sure it's tight in order to get a wrinkle-free screen. So I guess having something like that which just pops up and it does everything that the screen needs to do, is possibly worth the money. Then all you got to do is sort your lighting. It's one thing I guess a lot of people don't necessarily realise, that to use a green screen you need good lighting, or to do it properly you need good lighting. If you don't, it's can be hard for the overlay, the chroma key, to actually pick out the colours properly. And that's when you get things like shadows which then don't chroma key, and you get fringes and all sorts of things around people. My next development, I think, was about to say my next development for streaming is probably going to be another camera, but I was just thinking then, technically the next development is doing things like the end plate and finishing that off. Actually, I will just say, just because it occurred to me, because I've actually got to change it. I now actually have a logo, as opposed to just the ZA on its own. It's now ZA on its own, but it's a different style. So I actually have a proper logo now. And yeah, the next streaming development was going to be another camera that I can sit and either give a different view or use as a close-up camera, and then just switch. For which the Stream Deck will be nice and easy for doing that. Because sometimes, yeah, I might actually even, I keep thinking about investing also in a microphone stand, but to carry the camera, because at the moment I'm using what would be an angle poise lamp, which is not bad for most of the time. It's like an angle poise lamp without the lamp. The camera's on the end instead. It's actually sold as a microphone thing, but my microphone doesn't work very well in it. But it has limited range, of course, being an angle poise, and for example it'll only go up so far. So when I'm doing things like the 3D printer, it's really hard to get a decent shot. So I have been thinking about a microphone stand, saving up for one of those, and then fitting the end with a camera mount, so that we can sort of get higher and into a number of different positions which this thing won't reach, because it's bolted down to the desk. And I'm saying this thing here, I know you can't see it, but I'm pointing, that's what I'm pointing at. Okay, I was thinking about, what else was it for the stream? Yeah. No, that's about it in terms of streaming equipment anyway. At the moment, that's all I can't afford. But that's the sort of next set of plans for the streaming itself. One thing I would talk about streaming, of course Twitch, as you will know, only keeps videos for about a couple of weeks before it deletes them. But for not quite all the streams that I've done, but for a large majority of them, I do actually have a local recording of all the streams. I'm missing a few right at the start when I first started streaming back in March 2016, and I'm missing a few when I restarted around about March 2017, because I didn't. Prior to then, OBS, whenever you start the stream, will start recording. It was configured to do that. When I started streaming again and I moved to OBS Studio to start streaming, I didn't actually realise it wasn't configured the same. And I did quite a few streams before I realised that it hadn't been recorded. And for some reason it never occurred to me to download them from Twitch. So those are actually missing. And I say a few at the start, but I am gradually now starting the process of actually putting them onto YouTube. So at the moment there's there's 5 videos now live on YouTube. They are of the pyrography, and being Twitch, what I'm doing is literally putting the Twitch, not literally, but I am putting the Twitch recordings on, so they're not being sped up or anything like that. They're in real time. So there's currently 5 real-time pyrography videos up on YouTube. If you want to take a look at them, please do so. What I like to do now is have Moobot put the links in chat, but it's not set up. So, but you can find them on youtube.com/SarahGanart. And gradually, as I get the free time to do it, I am going to be uploading all the other videos. So there will probably be in excess of about 500 videos by the time it's finished. I say finished because of course it's ongoing. I'm broadcasting now, I'm recording this. At some point this will go up. I haven't decided whether just to start at the beginning and keep going, or to do these and then catch up with the ones at the beginning. I'm not quite sure which would be the best. You'll certainly get a perspective of how my ability to stream has changed over the years. Of course, because I'm editing, I am editing, I'm cutting them into half-hour sections, but I can certainly tell the difference between the broadcasting style back then and the broadcasting style now. I certainly talk a lot more now. In fact, largely speaking, I never stop talking now, whereas back then there was quite a lot of silence. Amazing how you change. I don't know quite when I started talking a lot more. I'll have to keep an eye out for those as I go through the videos, but also I think we'll probably intend, once I've got the real-time videos up for a particular craft or series, I think what I probably will also do is compress them down into a time-lapse. So, for example, the ones I'm putting up there now are the pyrography. It was the practice piece of the Class 66 locomotive, and I think I was doing that for something like about 10 hours. It's on A4, so it's a fairly sizable piece really, but I think what I probably will do at the end, once I've done through that, is put all those together and then time lapse it down into something like about half an hour video, so you actually get to see the whole thing end to end in a reasonable time. But if you want to, you can actually go and watch the real time. One of the things I hope actually that will do, as as well as it does on Twitch. I mean, I guess people on Twitch don't necessarily realise that the speed I'm doing it at on Twitch is my natural speed, if you like, or the natural speed these things get done. Because you can only cook wood so fast with control. But I am hoping that it helps people to realise on YouTube just how long some of these crafts take, because just about everybody that puts paragraph videos up does so with time lapse, and so a lot of people think a paragraph picture takes about half an hour. And of course I understand why they put them up as time lapse. Watching it in real time is quite boring, or I'd assume it's quite boring. Having said which, of course, if and I have watched some people do pyrography on Twitch, I'm quite happy to watch them do it in real time. Not that I can watch them do it in not real time, but you know what I mean. It's something which is, if you're interested in the subject, of course, you're happy watching it in real time. If you're not, then you're looking for the time lapse. If you're looking for that at all. But as I say, feel free to check it out. Follow it if you're interested in catching some of the other videos that come up in the future. There's a whole lot of them. Everything that you see on the right hand side of the screen here was done on Twitch, and so there will be a video of that going up, a real-time video, and possibly, if it took a long time, a compressed video of those going up on YouTube over, well, probably for the rest of this year, because it's there's well over a year's worth of video recordings, so there must be something like about 400-500 recordings, each of which are at least an hour long, possibly 2 hours long. So as you can imagine, when they're split down into half an hour, which is what I'm doing, actually to make it easier for people on YouTube to watch them, because 20 minutes to half an hour is about the most useful time length. There's going to be a fair number of videos there. And it's about now when I start realizing, even though I've got something like, I think it's about 15 meg upload, just how long it takes to upload about a 1.5 gigs video. Certainly I'm glad I've got that amount of capacity upload. It would be painful trying to do it on something like the old ADSL at 512 kilobits per second. It is amazing how we take things like high-speed internet for granted. The first time I went on the internet, it was 1275 baud, bits per not bits per second, baud. There is a difference, by the way, if you ever see it. Baud is symbols per second, bits per second is bits per second. But a symbol can be can represent a number of different bits. In fact, some of your higher speeds, like your 64 kilobit, 57 kilobit modems, were actually only something like about 2000 baud, and they were using complex techniques to increase to get the number of bits into a symbol. So they were relatively slow symbol rate but a high bit rate, and that's still used a lot actually in Wi-Fi, for example. Some of the modulation techniques use symbols, and a baud is a symbol per second, to actually get the really high speeds. So they are effectively transmitting relatively slowly, but it's an encoding technique which transfers a lot of data. But yes, I remember back then when modems were 110 bits. I'll say bits per second. There were 110 baud, but there were 1 bit per baud. And not only that, you didn't send 8, you just send 10, because you just start on the stop bit and the parity bit. Actually, that's 11. Well, it's not 11 because you only sent 7 bits because it was ASCII. There was no internet or anything fancy back then, file transfers, it was all text. 110 bits, and a 110 bit modem was sort of a 19-inch shelf. That's if you got a compact one. If you didn't, it was about 3 shelves. And yeah, I remember the 300 bits per second was a high-speed modem. That was amazing. The difference that made when you went from 110 to 300, tripling your speed. That was at the point where it was hard for somebody to actually keep up if they were typing, and people wondered why you'd want anything faster than that. And then in the UK you had Pestel come along with its 1200 receive, 75 transmit, teletext type things. And then what was it then? It's the big bulletin boards. I'm trying to think which one was. AOL was probably the most famous one at the time. And then the internet was sort of in its infancy, and you could link through AOL to get to the internet if you wanted. But okay, well, to show you, we've done this bit here. You can see the darker area here, and it's shiny, it sparkles. Move it about a bit. So this is, you know, when this is complete and you sort of walk past it, you get that sparkly effect as you walk past it, or just as you move your head basically, and you get all that sparkle. And this I think is going to be quite spectacular because the whole picture is going to be those, not just a small section of it like the other ones that I've been doing. But it's going to take a lot of hours to do that. That's a very small section. That's probably about 3 inches square. Well, possibly about 2 inches square, which is taking an hour and nearly an hour and a half to do. So can you imagine, this is bigger than A4. In fact, what is it? It's not A3, but it's getting up to be a fair size. But I'm going to call it a night for tonight. At that, I'm going to go back to cutting videos up and uploading them to YouTube, and changing my logo on Twitch. Actually, I've changed it on Twitch, I just haven't changed it on the end plates, starting end plates. I need to do that, but I need to edit the photographs for that. So what I'm going to do is change views. Use my Stream Deck, so you get that camera, and that's the one you've been watching all the work on here. SE920, and you can see the stand. It's also not a fantastic mount for it, but it does the job. So I was going to say thank you for watching. I've mentioned YouTube. It's new for Zaragan Art, is that. Check that out as the old videos get uploaded onto there. There'll be more going up, I won't say every day, but on a frequent basis, trying to catch up the backlog and clear my hard disk. I've just had to buy a new hard disk, or an external disk. I think I don't really want to put another one in the machine. So USB hard disk should be coming tomorrow, 3 terabytes, which in itself is amazing. I don't know how big it is. I'm assuming it's a laptop drive type size, but 3 terabytes. I can remember the first IBM PC with a 10 megabyte, that's not gigabytes or terabytes, 10 megabytes hard disk in it, and that was an enormous size. That's when floppy disk was something like 128 kilobytes, or even less, I think, on the big 8 inches. And I can still remember sort of 5 megabyte replaceable discs on the mainframes with a great big clunky handle that you used to lock in, twist and lift out a whole pack of platters, and there'd be a good 15, 18, 20 inch, it'd be about 20 inch, 21 inch. A stack of about 5 platters would be something like about 10 megabytes. I used to change those. Now, so we're down to sort of, I mean, now of course you're getting SSDs in sort of 2.5 inch size, carrying a terabyte of data, which in itself is just unthinkable. Not that many years ago. Absolutely amazing, the pace of technology and things like that. Some of the first, I mean, I've got a Raspberry Pi which is technically more powerful than a number of the mainframes I used to work on, and they were big mainframes taking up half a room. And you get a Raspberry Pi these days that I used to work on Vaxes. I am DEC, Digital Equipment Corporation, no longer around. They got bought by somebody, who then got bought by somebody else. But yeah, I used to work on big Vaxes, and an amazing operating system in those. Used to love the clustering. And these days you can get Raspberry Pis that will emulate some of the big Vaxes, and they are faster. And the clustering, absolutely amazing technology. But having said which, of course, you could put something like about 200 terminals on one of the big Vaxes. I'm not sure a Raspberry Pi would actually cope with that. Might do. It's not something I can try, but you link enough terminals to it over TCP/IP, I guess it would be an interesting exercise. But there again, sort of computer languages have changed and things like that, so they're not necessarily as efficient as they used to be. But enough reminiscing. What I was just talking about there was YouTube, of course. Check out youtube.com/ZaraganArt. And of course, follow me here on Twitch if you want to see some more of this or any of the other art forms, or even some more memories about Vaxes. And that's not the vacuum cleaner. And also follow me on Twitter if you'd like notifications and the odd message about art or art forms. It is, of course, at ZaraganArt on Twitter. And same on Facebook, actually, if you look out for ZaraganArt on Facebook, facebook.com/ZaraganArt. And I suppose if I'm going to do the full advert, what I might as well do is just mention the jewellery, the chainmail, like that. Well, there's not this one because it's not there yet, but you can see quite a bit of the jewellery available for sale on Etsy, etsy.com/ZaraganArt. No, zaraganart.etsy.com. Get it right. But I'll do the search, ZaraganArt. So, having done the advert, I'm going to say good night. Thank you very much for watching. Next stream almost certainly will be next weekend, but I'm going to try and get something in the middle of the week. Keep an eye out. Listen out on Twitter. That'll be where it'll go live first. Have a good night. See you on the next stream. Bye for now.